Order the common council meeting for Jeffersonville, Indiana for June the 16th. Would you all stand for invocation and pledge, please?
I saw Bob here.
As Bobby runs to the
Here he
flag.
comes, making his way.
Gracious God, we thank you for this day, God. We thank you, God, how you continue to bless us and keep us. We ask you, God, continue to bless our community and watch over us. Continue to help us to be the people you would have us to be. Help us to work together. We don't always agree, Lord, but please help us be able to work together to come to a solution. And once that solution is decided, that we work together to try to make sure that all things work together to make sure we have a safe community, a loving community, and also a community people want to come and live with, and also for our grandkids to grow. We thank you, God, for all the neighborhoods that are here tonight. We ask you, God, be with them, be with all their families. Continue to help our neighborhoods to continue to work together. That's what makes this such a wonderful community, that we have such great neighborhoods and people want to work together. Bless our council persons, be with them, and continue to watch over them. Bless their families, give them the strength they need to make the decisions they need to make. Give them the courage to make the decisions they need to make, and continue to watch over them. Also be with our first responders, be with all of our staff, be for our city, be with our mayor. Bless him and keep him and watch over him. And God, just bless our community, God. We thank you for all that you do for us and all that you have done for us and you will do for us. God, we love you, and we ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Bobby. Can we do roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Councilperson Smith.
Present.
Councilperson Payne.
Here.
Councilperson Sellers. Here. Council Vice President Gill. Here. Council President Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Glover.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect 8 councilpersons present, councilpersons Estavny absent.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. We have 2 changes. Paul Northam has asked to be pulled off, department heads. Amir has asked to be put on. What was that? Do you know what that was?
That was about the ladder truck and...
Fire truck. Oh, for the fire truck. Okay. And Jim Bosley for a comprehensive plan on new business. We're going to pull him off, number 4. So 5 will go to 4. And 6 will go to 5.
Number 5 on unfinished business, is that to be tabled or pulled?
Reference to the animal shelter?
Yes.
Yes, you can pull that.
Okay.
And Dennis, also we have certificates of appreciation to...
We've got some certificates of appreciation for the Drainage Board members, and we're going to do them right after the approval of the agenda. Won't take long, but it's something, housekeeping, we just want to take care of.
Do we want to move... Well, I think I forget.
Motion to approve the agenda with changes.
Sorry.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. If there's any board members, which I've seen a few walk in from the Drainage Board, if you would start working your way to the front, because we have a little bit of a crowded room today, and we would like to give you a certificate of appreciation for all of the time that you put in on our Drainage Board, and give you something to hang on the wall. Let's see. Is Bob here? No.
Madden.
Is Kurt here?
Yes. Go.
Nope. There's Charlie. All right. Mr. Bryant?
Charlie Bryant. Thank you, sir. You represent me well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dan Christensen. I didn't see him. Rick Madden. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate everything you do, buddy. Chester King. All right, Rick. Thank you very much. Appreciate all you do for us. Grant.
Last but not least.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Grant.
Stephen Gill. Sweet buddy. Thank you, man. Hang that on the wall, front and center. And Steve McCrite did not make it as well.
Go ahead and read the name.
Safety things.
Sure.
As liaison to the Drainage Board, I want to tell you, these guys represent us well.
You want to mention the ones that are not here?
And we didn't, Kurt Jacobs was not here, Bob Roki wasn't here either, and Dan Christensen or Steve McCrite. But the board works really well together. I know Andy works hand in hand. Thank you, Andy, for all you do. But these guys go out, I know I go out there with them a lot to look at the plans. They go out, they actually are in the rain looking at the drainage issues. It takes a while to get some things solved, but they do their due diligence, and I, for one, thank them.
Thank you very much. All right, we've got minutes to approve.
If there are no changes, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Claims to be approved. Amy?
I do have one hand-carried claim tonight. This was for attendance at the conference last week in French Lick. It's for $387.
Even?
Yes.
Where's that come from in here?
That's going to come out of unappropriated and the clerk's budget. That brings our total to $361,892.87. 361,892.87.
Amy, I did have a question.
Okay.
On page 9, out of gaming, we have roughly $20,000 for Hidden Creek Management out of special projects. Do you know what that is?
That was for installation of sod at Worley.
Okay.
There was some debate at the Finance Committee last week of where to pay that from. It's under gaming currently.
Is there a reason we paid that out of gaming? Or
They said that we passed it like last September, but I know that we've talked about
Oh.
it since then.
That's what we had passed last year, and then they just got, okay.
Just got the bill.
I do
And
remember
the
having
minutes
that
said
conversation.
gaming, and that's what we approved.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
I will abstain from voting on that.
I have a couple things. On page 7, under Parks and Recreation, there's $180 for Allisonburg Park. That needs to be taken from redevelopment. And then on page 9, under Sounds Unlimited, the River Stage, there was $300 in that, and that was for the movie cycle that the mayor showed on Thursday, and he said he would take all of that out of his promotional budget. So that 300 of that 2,000 needs to be moved to his promotional budget.
Which one was that?
It's 2060 Sounds Unlimited Productions.
That has multiple dates on it, is that?
Yeah.
It was in there.
It was in there, we went through the claims.
Okay. So was that,
It was for $300 for the
For his,
For the
technician.
sound.
oh,
sound.
okay. It was 300 of that 260.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Amy, can you just remind Paul from moving forward, Paul Northern, that we need to keep that separate?
Okay.
Allison Brook, the marina, all of that stuff needs to come out from redevelopment.
well, and on that movie night, we need to make sure that any parks employees that are clean up or whatever, any expenditures, go back into.
What was the first one that you had, Connie, on page 7?
The 180 for Estes, Allison Brook Park,
Where is it?
it's at the
At
top,
the top, I'm sorry.
or from the middle.
So
For sanitation.
are we pulling that claim
That needs to be
completely?
paid from redevelopment. No, it just needs to be billed to redevelopment. So,
So we're not pulling it?
How do you want to do that, Amy? Do we need to pull it and then rebill it to redevelopment?
We can pull it, yes.
Okay.
So then we need a new total.
I have 361, 412, 87, with the removal of 180 and 300.
Well, the 300 just needs to be moved under the mayor's promotional.
Oh, okay.
So we're not removing that, we're just
So it's
moving it
just
to different line
$200
item.
difference.
80.
712, 361, 712.
Yeah.
87.
Okay.
87.
There are no further changes. I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, report of the clerk.
None of this sounds
Department head reports, we've got Andy Crouch for master plan for summer workers. And I think everybody had a handout that looked like this.
Good evening.
Hey, Andy.
Well, I actually had two things. One was just a revisit of something I came to discuss with you in March. I proposed a mobility projects at that time for 2014, some sidewalk projects. We are really wanting to move forward with the Middle Road sidewalks. The new sidewalk connection between Pebble Creek Drive and Allison Lane is going to connect multiple residential neighborhoods to Allison Lane, and we have pretty much completed Allison Brook Park. And we would like to extend a sidewalk up Middle Road for that. That was a project that was in the sidewalk master plan. This is a little hard to read, but you can see that the black line that runs top to bottom on the page, that's Middle Road, going from Pebble Creek Drive down to Allison Lane. And the cost estimate for that runs right around $260,000. We've got $241 on this one from 2010, and just bumping it up for inflation, we're asking for $260,000. So I know that's just a discussion topic, but I wanted to present that to you, get that in front of this council.
Was that already budgeted?
It has not been budgeted. We currently have, I believe, right at $250,000 in a sidewalk budget that the council set aside. You set aside through edit funds. We're going to be spending about 150 to 160 of that on the sidewalk for Vissing Park Drive that goes from 10th Street back to Vissing Park. It's going to leave about $90,000 to $100,000 left.
Where are we at on the Vissing Park sidewalks?
We have made acquisition proposals to 3 different property owners. 2 have accepted. 1 has asked for additional money. We've gone back and got a second quote appraisal for them and offered it to them. I have not heard anything back from them on that yet. We're also in the process of getting permits for some wetlands and some perhaps bat habitat trees in the corridor.
Okay, thank you.
This should be done this year.
Do you have any ideas of where you'd like the money to come from for the sidewalk down Middle Road?
From you?
Obviously.
From the money tree. No, I don't have a suggestion for that.
What width is that, Norm? Do we have a normal width on
We
that?
usually go 5 feet for sidewalks.
That might be something then finance, maybe we can put that on an agenda one day when Andy's available.
Can you try and add that to our agenda for the finance? Thank you.
And the second thing I was here to present to you tonight.
Andy, let me clarify.
Sure.
We have, what I thought I heard you say, we have 90,000 left, or approximately,
There should be once
From
we're
the-
done with Vissing.
Vissing. And you would be fine with us applying that 90 to the
We have some redevelopment.
260?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sidewalks.
Thank you.
Okay.
They took it.
So for the second item, we've been discussing amongst various staff for the city, as well as with Councilman Julius and Councilman Samuel, a green space maintenance plan for the city. What you have in front of you, and I realize for the audience this is probably a little bit difficult to read, It's because there's so much on there. We have listed out all of the green space areas within the city that need to be maintained on a seasonal basis. Whatever the growing season is, whether that starts in March or April and goes through September or October, somebody needs to take care of those. And I've been asked to come up with a plan to do so. That plan is before you. What you see is a listing of the different areas that need to be maintained, from gateways around town, areas at the aquatic park, areas at Water Park, 8th and Main, Gaither Park, 8th and Graham, Middle Road and Allison Lane, Glossburner Garden, Court Street Islands, the 12th Street Islands, some planters, the bike planters around town, the 10th Street medians, areas that our drainage crew typically mows, like detention basins and ditches, as well as areas in the Parks Department. What you'll find on the chart that I have in front of you is we've worked with City Pride to come up with the areas that we as the city would like to maintain versus the areas that City Pride feel that they want to do themselves on a volunteer basis. We already have, through our drainage department, we have a crew leader that is taking care of bioswales in and around the downtown area. I spoke with him and asked him if we added all these things, not to your plate, but just in general, if we added this to the city's plate, based on what you see you're having to take care of in terms of maintenance, what would it take to add, such as the 10th Street medians and these other areas? And he and I have sat down and talked, and we would like to request 4 additional seasonal employees for the remainder of this season. We've totaled that up. It comes to around $33,000.
But you're not talking about taking out of drainage fees?
We're not looking at, no.
Okay.
No, we're not looking at moving any drainage employees. We're not looking at pulling any funds from the drainage department.
What our suggestion is doing, and the way that this came up, we have some high-profile areas that seem not to get much attention. So we went to Andy. Andy has led the charge on this. I really pat him on the back of how can we coordinate and get this done in a reasonable manner. This crew leader that he's talking about, we actually had him in the meeting, and he was comfortable with, it's kind of the buck stops here, because we asked him at that meeting, is this enough to accomplish what we want? Our idea at the meeting, which one of the things we wanted to talk about was we would pull this out of beautification. It seemed like a perfect fit for that. We have a little bit of money in there. I think $32,000 was for labor, and there was $1,000 for miscellaneous equipment that they needed. But it seemed like a perfect fit. And it's kind of a trial basis this year. We see how we do. Once we initiate it, we can look at it next year, and if we want to put it in a hard line on the budget, then we'd have the opportunity to do that.
I just wanted to make sure that, because drainage has the bioswales.
Correct.
They have the retention basins. We have our easements, and we have our creek beds and things like that, and I don't want that to suffer.
They wouldn't be. Right.
They're taken care of through...
They're being taken care of, and that's what we're looking to take care of. So if you look at your chart, you've got areas that the drainage crew is responsible for, and they're taking care of those in addition to the bioswales downtown that they've been taking care of. We're looking for this group of people to take care of both those drainage areas and the other beautification areas.
The thing is, we have to have somebody headed up day to day. They have to answer to somebody, and somebody's got to give them instructions.
I just need to verify, because
No.
there's only that $3.50 fee that
Understand.
goes for drainage.
That's correct.
So Andy, just so I'm clear on this, on the yellow is City Pride responsibility, so you're saying they're going to take over those duties?
That's what I believe that those are the areas that they are already taking care of.
Okay, and of the green areas, that $33,000 for 4 months is going to maintain those green areas?
That's correct.
So then the street department's not going to be taking care of the gateways anymore?
No.
It will be...
We would take care of it. This group would take care of those.
And one of the things we discussed in our meeting was we have, I believe, 3 different groups or departments that are responsible for mowing and keeping different areas straightened up. If this works out well, it may be proposed for next year, depending on how it works, to some way consolidate all those under one, whether it's under Andy or whatever, and then all the mowing, all the bioswales, whatever, all of that is taken care of across the city by one group of folks. So it's not,
And Andy,
Go ahead.
did you take into account that we had the agreement with state, since the bridge project's going on? Do you know how the streets department was taking over the ramps and all that? That was state?
Right, and this has not been included in that. I don't figure we're going to be maintaining those areas for the next few years until they're gone.
We're gonna walk before we take on.
I mean, maybe the street department has got something worked out with Walsh, but I'm not aware of that, to maintain those areas while they're under construction.
I have a question for Mr. Lewis. On this, it has the Parks Department mowing the canal properties and the Cassie properties, which are owned by redevelopment. Can we put a claim into redevelopment since that's their property?
Yeah, I think that would be the correct way to do that, because when other entities say use like employees, the sewer board, the interbuilding between the department and the city, the property's not owned by parks. If you work for another entity that owns property, there should be reimbursement, which is common. I mean, we do that
Right.
in other departments.
I believe Parks is taking care of those right now, and there's probably an interdepartmental billing going on, and that's why we added it to this.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is,
Okay, maybe not.
But there needs to be.
but there needs to be.
Okay.
Is there?
There is.
Thank you, Kelly.
I'll make a motion to approve moving forward with the expectation of paying for the $33,000 out of the beautification fund.
I mean, do you know what's in our beautification fund?
Yes, that one.
We have 55,000 appropriated. 528,000 in cash.
Do we have a second?
No.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
We'll get
Andy.
started.
Thanks for all the work you did on that.
Thank you.
Still under department heads, we got Chief Grimm, new police officer proposal, and COPS grant.
The fun stuff. One thing hang up you guys that I'll reference so you guys have in front of you.
Give one.
Thank you, Chief.
On one shoulder. Good evening. I think everybody knows why I'm here this evening, is to present my plan and the police department's plan for the hiring of police officers for the city of Jeffersonville. I'm not going to stand up here and beat my chest and pass on a proposal that I don't think is feasible. I'm going to talk about why these officers need to be hired, our plan to hire them, and how to pay for them. I know there have been some questions about, we put a plan together and didn't propose how to pay for them, but we're going to get into that hopefully before I'm finished. So, yes.
When you get done, will you print that off?
I've got a copy of it back there. Yes, ma'am. Our current workforce is 75 sworn officers for the city of Jeffersonville. Our plan is to hire 5 new officers every year over the next 5 years for a total of 25 new officers. The hiring benefits, it allows the Jeffersonville Police Department to become a more proactive force, allows for special divisions to be created to help fight and deter crime, allows for a larger detective division to investigate crimes, keeps response times from increasing. Currently, our city is a little over 34 square miles. That is the 7th largest city by square mileage in the state of Indiana. Provide a level of protection expected by the citizens of Jeffersonville. I'm going to talk about a couple issues this evening as to why I believe that these officers are needed for the city. The first is what's called a Rule of 60. The Rule of 60 is used by many agencies to evaluate their workforce. It's based on if more than 60% of your officers' time is used for calls for service, they basically become a reactionary force, not a proactive force. Currently, the Jeffersonville Police Department operates on average right at 60% or over. And what that means is basically our officers who work patrol spend 60% of their daily activities responding to calls for service. What that means is once they reach that 60% threshold, they basically cannot be proactive because it's just a matter of finishing paperwork for the call they just took in anticipation of the next call they're going to take because they're over that 60%. Basically, it causes our officers to act in reactionary mode, not a proactive mode. Hiring more officers helps reduce the time spent on calls for service, thus allowing officers to become more proactive. Second part of the rule of 60 is 60% of the workforce should be used to take calls for service. A portion of the remaining should be used to staff administrative needs. The remaining should be used as a proactive force on the police department. Currently, the Jeffersonville Police Department has 72% of the workforce answering calls for service, and they will still spend more than 60% of their time on calls for service. Hiring the 25 officers would allow us to add more officers to the street to handle calls for service. Hiring the officers would also allow us to implement several full-time proactive divisions into the police department plan, such as bike patrol, traffic division, increased narcotics division, and a flex unit that could do saturation patrols in areas of concern. Next, I'm going to talk about the other reason why I believe that we should hire these officers, and that's 2007 R11. It's the Jeffersonville Fiscal Plan for Annexation. The plan was passed by the City Council in 2007 for newly annexed areas. The annexed area included approximately 26 new neighborhoods and several business districts, including River Ridge. Article 5, Section B covers police protection, and that's hard to read when I copied it over there, but you guys should have a copy of it, I believe. But it states, and I won't read the whole thing, but it states about halfway down, again, this is Section 5 under non-capital improvements, Section B, police protection. The city anticipates needing to hire 18 additional officers as a result of the annexation in order to maintain a ratio of 2 police officers per 1,000 population. When those annexation numbers were done, they used 2000 census. Current estimated population by the U.S. Census Bureau for Jeffersonville in 2013 is 45,929. If you follow the past annexation fiscal plan, that would translate into 92 officers. Current staffing is 75. 25 added would bring staffing to 100, which is in anticipation of future growth over the next 5 years. The cost of the plan. Again, our general fund budget for this year for salaries is $4,089,000, and our Lloyd budget is $542,100. For this year in 2014 to hire 5 officers, because this is based off an August hire date, because we're already almost into July, and by the time this process started, we'd be looking at August, would add approximately $150,000 to our general fund budget, and would add $250,000 to our Lloyd budget. And actually that number could probably be changed also because part of that budget amount is for vehicles, and we could probably offset that. The Lloyd budget we could probably offset by a year because we wouldn't purchase cars for the new officers this year. Yes, ma'am.
Chief, when you're saying that $250,000 is for cars, is that equipped? Is that
That's
laptops?
equipped. That is firearms. That is bulletproof vests. That is uniforms. That is computers. That is vehicles. That is everything an officer needs to hit the ground running. So again, the first year general fund budget is approximately $150,000 added for 2014. 2015, obviously that number increases because it's a full year, and you can see the increments. Now, I had some questions about the Lloyd budget. In 2015 would actually drop by $82,000 because this year's budget included a firearms training simulator, which was budgeted for $82,000. That piece of equipment has been purchased and paid for, so that would obviously come out of that total budget. So again, those numbers would be that would drop $82,000 from that Lloyd budget. As you go through that list, and I think everybody should have this in front of you also, it slowly increases per year, and that's one reason why we wanted to spread this out so it wasn't one big hit to the budget. Have any questions over? No? Paying for the plan. City of Jeffersonville started the year with over a $5 million surplus in the general fund. If all current 2014 budgets are spent, the city will still maintain over $2 million in surplus in the general fund. In 2014, circuit breakers are removed from the budget, then surplus is over $5 million in the general fund. Lloyd will have over $2.5 million surplus after 2014 budgets are expended. Basically, with those numbers and the surplus that the city currently has in the general fund, that funds this plan with no problems. And I think Amy can verify the numbers that are on this plan. That's a breakdown of the plan. Again, that's kind of hard to read, but that basically goes through the last 3 years and talks about the in-cash balance for all of both of the funds the general fund and the Lloyd funds, and what the surplus and where they came from. Again, the plan spreads the cost over a 5-year time frame, and it will produce no tax increase to the general public and to the tax-paying public because the money is already there and can be funded. Cost of not adding the officers. Again, as our city grows, we will start to see increased response times. We are not meeting the annexation staffing requirements. As our officers get busier, officer burnout will increase workload and the lack of proactive police units. To me, that's probably one of the most important things. We're such a reactive police department that we don't have the staff and the manpower to get out here and really be proactive. And again, continued city growth and services, we're just unable to handle it with the growth that I believe that the city is going to see in the next 5 years.
Chief, when you say being a proactive unit,
That's it. That's for PowerPoint. That's it.
define proactive unit.
A proactive unit, and like I used it as examples, a traffic unit. I'm sure in all of your districts you receive complaints about traffic enforcement. Right now, the way our police department is set up with the manpower we have to task our street officers to handle that traffic enforcement. That officer may come to the 6th district and be able to sit on a stop sign for 10 minutes before he gets called off for a call for service, because again, we're stressing those officers to have to respond to those call for services. So I think, and the other thing is, we talked about a flex unit, for lack of a better term. Those are officers who we could put out if there are break-into vehicles. We're having a problem with break-into vehicles out in a certain area, Oak Park. We can saturate that area with what's called saturation patrols, so those officers can be in the area at those busy times through the evening and help with enforcement and hopefully try to alleviate some of those issues in those areas.
Chief, I got a couple things.
Yes, sir.
Using your numbers that you gave us, which you had on the screen a minute ago, for the 5-year projection,
Yes, sir.
if you compound these numbers over a 5-year period, you come up with $5,695,175. Now, today, you took part of the first year's budget out.
Correct.
So there's probably $150,000 in discrepancy there.
And actually, those numbers, you should have one that you got from me that has the correct numbers on it. The actual ending 2018 budget of +5 should be $6,094,360.
That's what I've got.
Right.
And what I'm doing is compounding the numbers
Well, you can.
on what it's going to cost
Okay.
in a 5-year period.
Yes.
And with the accumulative surplus that we have gained over, I'd say 6 years, is the $5,200,000. Last year, in doing a little bit of research, and thanks to these wonderful ladies over here, the CADGET, which is the county income tax, gross adjusted income tax, actually accounted for over $1.6 million last year. I understand where you're going, and nobody's arguing whether we do or we don't need policemen. I don't think that's it. I think the main goal here is how do we be fiscally responsible and how do we pay for them. And in the last 4 years that we have, or 5 years, I guess, that we have accumulated the funds, there was actually 1 year that we had a negative figure, meaning that we spent more than we took in. And my problem with your scenario is I don't know how we can be fiscally responsible and assume that we will get more money in every year when we don't every year and tap that fund dry.
Well, I think one of the issues there is it's not a $5 million increase. I mean, my current budget is $4,089,000. So to take it from $4,089,000 to $6,094,000 is only a $2 million increase, not a $5 million increase.
But Chris, you have to compound those numbers.
They're compounded right here.
I think Mr. Julius is adding in the added employee money, is that correct?
No. You have to take, if it costs you, like you had, $348,000.
Right.
And next year, you're virtually going to add the same, so you have $700,000.
Right. If you look at these numbers.
Yeah.
I've done them.
Okay. In your budget first year, if you look, my budget goes from, if you add in this year, would be $4,437,320, which actually is too high because there's only 150 there. Next year, you see the $362,040, right, in parentheses.
Yes.
That is added to that budget. That accounts for the next 5 officers hired because your budget's already changed. So that accounts for your next 5 officers hired, plus it also includes your 1-year officer anniversary things that are contractually obligated to, which is a 1% longevity, their pay goes up per the contract. That number is the $362,000. So of that $362,000, $348,000 of that is new officers. The other of that is added to the budget to help out the...
I understand where you're going. I just think your compounding may be off. But that's not
Well,
here. That's not here nor there. What I'm saying is, even if it was 4.8, well, I don't know that we would be comfortable taking all of that money out of...
I'm not asking you to take it all out today. I mean, and the point is, my total budget at the end of this process will be $6,094,000.
I get that.
Not.
I understand.
Okay.
I guess my comment would be that basically we have built up the reserves, the emergency fund, if you want to call it, over the last number of years, and it appears that the plan taps into our savings.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't hit the rainy day fund at all.
I'm talking about not the rainy day fund, the reserves, the other reserves.
Well, okay, let me ask you. Is Chris Krim the taxpayer in Jeffersonville? Okay, I look at this and go, okay, is this a profit organization or a not-for-profit organization? We have $4.7 million in our rainy day fund, which is the emergency fund. There was $5 million left over in the general fund, general operating budget of the city of Jeffersonville at the first part of this year. So what better way to spend it than on public safety, than on putting the officers on the street that, first of all, this council agreed to back in 2007 to hire and to put in the annexed area? What better way to spend some of that money? And I'm not asking to spend it all.
I guess my comment is, if we're depleting those reserves, then in 3 years, 5 years, whenever those were depleted, and then you've got that $2 million gap where we got all the officers on, our general fund, our increase that we get every year, the levy from our taxpayers, does not increase by $2 million in 5 years. And so then, at that, when we're done pulling it out of our savings, that's when the rubber meets the road right then. That's when the decision is to either lay off or to raise taxes. We don't have to raise taxes while we have it in savings, but at the level we're going to be pulling it out of, we're going to have to do something at the end of that when that savings is gone. That's my apprehension.
Here's another thought I have too. Right now, the city of Jeffersonville is up against our caps. And even before Annex started, we knew we didn't have the tax structure in place that we have today. Several years ago, when we was up against our caps, we got hit with a $3.5 million circuit breaker hit. Last year, we got hit with a $3.25 million circuit breaker hit. And I think this year, Amy, it was around $3 million circuit breaker hit. Right. There's some things we can do in there to help offset that. But you cannot just fabricate numbers. You have to make sure.
I didn't fabricate any
not
numbers.
you. I'm talking about when
Right.
we do our budgets and we present them to the state. We have to have something that is defendable, for lack of a better term. Where the city of Jeffersonville is different as a municipality versus the county is, the county right now is going to be up against their breakers. And the county has an option to mandate. And what that means is, getting back, let's just say in 3 years from now, as Nathan said, we're in a pinch and we got to have some revenue. Then we've got to look at some options. What the county can do, and what they're doing today, is they can mandate to the state to raise money. And it hadn't been decided yet, but it will be shortly. But the county plans on, or is looking at, a $7 million mandate. And what they can do is they can take their court systems and their jail and the sheriff, and they can apply for this mandate through the state. Now, when they get that mandate approved, $7 million, whatever that mandate is, that money comes, the largest portion of that money comes from Jeffersonville. Now, we don't know, that's an unknown. We don't know what that is. That comes from us. We don't get a vote on it. It's like anything else. That money comes from us. And this mandate has been carried on for years and will continue to carry on for years. I do not support a tax increase. And I know you said it's not going to be a tax increase, and I totally disagree with you. So here's what I would suggest. I would suggest that the administration, including the mayor, yourself, and the fire chief, and Amy, put together a plan. And in that plan, I want you to break down every officer and cost. And I want you to break that into a tax rate. Then I want the administration with the mayor go to Indianapolis and put a referendum on our ballot that asks for a tax increase to pay for this plan. Because it's not just about the police department, it's going to be about the fire department. The fire chief recently put on his Facebook page, which I spoke to him several times during this situation on a fire truck that has been wrecked. It's never been mentioned to me about additional firefighters, but now we're talking about additional firefighters. I know it doesn't apply to you, but I'm not here to talk about the fire department. I know, but I'm here. I have to budget it all. All I'm saying is, I think the time has come. If the mayor wants his tax increase,
This is not the mayor's plan. I think that's where you all are mistaken.
No, this is the administrative plan.
This is a plan that we've worked on for 3 months at the police department that the mayor supports.
Okay, well, that's my point.
Okay.
And what he needs, since he supports it, that's fine. I mean, that's great. Then I suggest that the administration, you go to Indianapolis and get this put on a referendum, have Amy break it down into the actual increase, the dollars and cents increase, and have that put on a referendum for the next election. And let the people, the representatives that you talk about, taxation, representation, let the city of Jeffersonville decide, the taxpayers, if they want to raise their taxes. Okay? I mean, now that's just a thought. But I will tell you, I will not vote for a tax increase, and this has nothing to do with you either, but I'm not going to vote to raise a sewer bill. As administrative decisions, I don't support it.
What are we talking about? What information do we have in front of us that has anything to do with sewer increase or a tax increase.
That's me speaking. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Chief, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just want to go back to the salaries. Is that okay?
Yes.
On here, I'm actually looking at the expenditure report, so I just want to ask some questions about that. Down here on did you take into account the longevity?
Yes.
And so all of that's taken in?
Yes.
Did you take it, and I don't know how it would be broken up with the officers, but I don't know if you'd be adding people to SWAT or whatever. Did you take into account any increases with,
With specialty pay, no, those numbers probably would not increase.
okay. What
But
about,
that's a flat number of officers we have in those divisions, so.
okay, what about, and I know the police, I don't know if it's the fire pension or the police pension, but one of them is an old pension and one of them is a new pension.
I don't think we have anybody on the old pension anymore.
Okay, so did you include the pension cost?
I think everything is included in those numbers.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking is because the police salaries are $4,089,000, but then all of these other costs look like they're separate. That's why I'm asking.
And that's,
In here, I guess I should ask Amy. In the $4,089,000 for the police officers, and then like below it is the dispatchers, which I know that's a totally separate line item. Overtime is a different line item. Longevity is $21,000. Is that a different line item from the $4 million?
It is in the budget, but it's all lumped together on this presentation.
so I guess the answer to your question, Connie, is those numbers wouldn't necessarily all be added to that. Those are the correct numbers. They may be spread amongst 2 or 3 separate funds, but those are the correct numbers to hire the officers. And that's probably my mistake, not separating them into a longevity fund, and so you could see. But those are the numbers. That's the bottom line to hire an officer.
Amy, you said the way you understand it. I thought Chris, Chief said you gave him those numbers when we...
That's my fault, because I didn't put them, we basically took them as a lump figure. That 362, well, 362 each is the second year of 2015. The 362,040 includes all of that. It's just not broken down into each line item. It's added to a budget total. And it should have gone into longevity. And I'm not sure, I think that longevity is actually for our dispatchers. That
Oh, it might
21,000.
be because
Yeah.
it's not very much.
Right, I think that longevity is dispatch longevity.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things we need to keep in mind. Number one, first and foremost, is this is a 5-year plan that is just that. It's a plan. It's nothing binding. You know, we can say this is what we want to do. We can say this isn't what we want to do, and come back next year and change it, or the next council can go back and change it. All we really have to approve tonight or talk about is what we can do within the next calendar year and with the next budget, since budget times are coming up. If we look at 2014, hiring 5 more officers like the chief has requested, the total in payroll is going to be less than what we're losing out of our dispatchers. And I know there's some discrepancy on what's going to happen with that money in the levy, and that's to be determined. But even if we did lose that money in the levy, we get what, Amy, a 2% increase in the levy minus caps per year? Okay, 2% conservatively is $500,000 a year in increase. You know, minus the caps, yes, but I'm hearing you say this is feasible. I mean, is that not right? And do we have anything in front of us that says anything like tax increase?
Absolutely not. They're not going to put a tax increase in front of you.
Okay, so this is fundable without a tax increase.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, what makes you not agree with that when the controller is
If you
sitting
look
and telling
at,
us
well, if you look at where we're at now, we've already hit our tax caps. We've hit $3.5, $3.25, and $3 million in our cuts.
Yes.
The county is going to mandate, which has not part of any scenario, up to $7 million. I was told $7 million, but they haven't voted on it yet. So that's flexible. Once they vote on that mandate and they take it to state, we are the biggest municipality in this county So we're going to get hit with the biggest draw of money. Now, we don't know how much that is.
We will.
Right. So until we figure out where all this is coming from, we don't have the money to do that. What I'm saying is, and if that's the case, then the only option we got is a tax increase. So I don't support that. I mean, that's my...
Here's what I think. I'm going to make a recommendation that we as a council have a workshop on this. I think we need to call out, get you involved, Chief, get all these facts and figures together, get Amy involved. Let's run some different scenarios out. I think we ought to pull out, you mentioned the annexation. What happened. I was not on the council when the annexation took place. I think we need to get that out and see what the city committed to. And if the city committed to something that we're not funding, then we need to figure out how to make it happen.
And I think that's a good point, and that's exactly what you said. 2007 R11 says that we were going to maintain the level of service, and we're not doing that.
2 officers for every 1,000 resident.
Well, all I'm saying...
There are people on this council that did vote for that. You and I weren't here for that, but there are people here that were.
I understand.
And
what I think we ought to do, we could stay here all night long and discuss this, and we'd probably be right here where we are. So what I think we will do is put a workshop together and try and put some resolve to this. And
Well, let me just ask, I mean, I know we want to push this to a workshop, but what else in a workshop is going to be presented to us other than these facts, 2007 R11, and the controller's point of view from the financial consideration of the city? What else is going to be presented in a workshop? I mean, I know we want to go to a workshop and we want to rehash this and we want to talk about it, but if you're not for it, then let's just vote it down and be done with it. My residents in the 6th district, we're still living with county roads. We're still dealing with, response times that are not adequate, and they were promised those things when they were annexed into the city. And here we have a controller that will tell us she thinks it's 100% fundable, and we have those that say, no, I don't believe that. So in a workshop, well, who's going to get it?
Change minds?
Is her figures going to change, or is somebody else's opinion going to change?
Well, Brian, I'll tell you one thing that the chief said himself was it might end up at 92 officers instead of 100. So that might be 4 officers a year or 3 officers a year or some sort of different type of staging. And what I think we need to be able to do, I don't think you can be fiscally responsible as a board here, as a council, to be handed something on Thursday to 4 of us, 4 days later, bring it to the council, put it up on this board, and expect us to vote on a $5 million claim.
Well, I don't think that if we sat here for 6 months and had 15 different workshops, that these figures are going to change, her figures are going to change, and anybody's opinion is going to change. And as Matt said earlier, the only decision you can make, in theory, is the decision for next year. Because if it's just a comprehensive plan, after the 2016 council sits on here, they can do anything with that plan that they want. The only thing that we need to discuss, and really, to be honestly, is what you're going to do next year. And the residents that are paying taxes deserve the police protection that they pay for. And I agree that when we have a surplus, I agree with Chief Grimm in the fact that when we have a surplus, we're not here to save money to put money in this bank. We're here to provide services for the residents that pay for it. And my district especially, they deserve that. They didn't ask to be annexed. They were annexed by force.
We're not
And they
arguing
deserve.
against that.
Obviously, we want to go to workshop after workshop after workshop, and I think it's futile to continue to go to a workshop when she's telling us it's fundable, and if you don't trust her numbers, then what's going to change? So,
Well, I can look at a 5-year plan, but he's not just looking at hiring 5 for next year. He wants 5 this year, too.
let's won't be on the streets until next year.
Which my concern is, I want to look at the Lloyd, because we do not know what that ladder truck is. What is wrong with verifying the number? Even if we have a workshop, we don't have to wait so long to have the workshop just to look at. I want to make sure that it's when you're sitting here as a council, you can't just take in this plan. We have to look at all the appropriations. We've already went outside our certified budget already this year.
Amy, have you looked at those funds? Have you looked at those funds? Have you looked at Lloyd and the expenditures that we're experiencing in all of our all of those things that would come out of Lloyd?
It's right here.
And you believe those numbers are comfortable on this paper?
Did you take out the 911? Well, we know we're going to have to be paying for the new 911 center. We don't know that. Then it's not been taken out.
We've already appropriated what, or we've set aside what?
They're talking about $700,000 a year.
Right now, I think for the past several years, we set aside $500,000 because of the cost. We don't really know yet.
We have a cash balance of $2.5 million.
Yeah, well, we're going to probably spend a hunk of that.
We spend everything.
You want to spend, surely to God, you want to spend $2.5 million on a fire truck.
That's going to be
Close
dead.
to $1 million.
Not anyway.
Close to $1 million.
I have
For a ladder
a
truck.
point of clarification, Chief.
Yes.
I've received a lot of inquiries. I think there's some misinformation from the standpoint of folks are thinking we're going to put the 5 officers this year at Big 4 Station or Big 4 Park. And I think you're saying, no, it's city-wide.
This is a comprehensive plan for the entire city.
Okay.
And to Brian's point also, and yes, we're asking for 25 officers that gets us to 105 years, and that's to adjust for growth. Let's say in 5 years the city's population is 55,000 people. Well, you're off your annexation plan by another 10 officers. So technically, the annexed area, for lack of a better term, is owed 92 officers, because that's what the population numbers state, and the annexation plan says 2 officers for every 1,000. Shall maintain 2 officers for every 1,000.
Let me ask a question, I guess from maybe Scott. In the annexation paperwork, it says that that they will provide, the services will be provided in a manner equivalent in standard and scope to the services provided in areas within the corporate boundaries, which I interpret that to say whatever the standard and scope, the ratio of officers, I'll say, at the time we annexed, so back in '07, whatever that ratio is what will carry forward, but then it also later references 2 per 1,000. Those are 2 different numbers.
Not necessarily, because they got the 2 for 1 off of the old city's population and number of officers.
Well, our population was around 36,000.
After annexation, because we went to 72 officers after annexation. That was the number they used for.
What I'm saying is, before we annexed, we were around 36.
No, we weren't.
We're less than that.
Less than that.
Close to 30.
And we had 50, how many officers? 55?
30,000.
No, you had more than, you had 60 some odd officers here before annexation.
That ratio we need to double check, because when I was, the information I had is different from that, so double check that.
This gentleman would like to speak. It's your all's meeting, so.
No. I think he's asking for $80,000 per man, 5 man, $400,000. Maximum is $100,000 a man, $500,000. Why don't you give them 5 officers this year? Look at it next year. Give them 5 if you can afford it. Your item up in there, we've got 35% of the population of the county is Jeffersonville. So $7 million, if it is, that's a $2.5 million or $2.25 million. You aren't busting anything, and you can see where you're going. Cadget's going to go way up. You know what's happening out at River Ridge and how many people, and we see all the approvals going all the time. So, he's presenting a 5-year plan. You maybe not have to accept it, but why don't you give him some officers now instead of having another workshop and spend another 6 weeks talking about it. So, that's my problem.
The number one complaint I've had as a council member has been speeding, traffic, neighborhood issues, and they're always wanting that officer to sit at a certain spot to do that. That's what you were talking about, being proactive.
Yes,
that
sir.
we can recognize areas that are problems in neighborhoods that we should provide services to and provide them in an adequate manner. Week in and week out at the Board of Public Works, we get the same complaints that this is an issue in my neighborhood, this is an issue in this neighborhood. And as a city, as an administration, we're able to say, Chief, can you give us 10, 15, 20 minutes to come out and look at that? Yes, I'll try until we get called to another thing. My only point is this council was elected to make tough decisions. It's time to make a tough decision. Either make a decision and move on. Let's quit dragging our feet. If you want to have a workshop, then have a workshop, but promise this city that at the next council meeting, you're going to take some movement. Whether you want to vote yes or no is totally up to you, but promise these residents that elected you that you're going to stand up and make a decision and live by it. That's all I ask.
Ryan, I totally agree with you, but us asking to look at numbers isn't saying we don't want to give them the officers. We just want to sustain those officers for their 25-year career, or we got to make sure we're not going to have that surplus forever, because every year
Nowhere in there did they say use a surplus, and you've seen these numbers longer than I have.
Because they're going outside the budget.
The Finance Committee has looked at these numbers much longer than I have. You all were presented with these
We saw
numbers
them
much
Thursday.
longer than I have.
We saw on Thursday.
We are going outside our certified approved budget to add maybe 5 officers this year and 5 officers next year. I can't sit here as a council person going by, she says it's fundable, great. Then you're going to sit down, we're going to go through everything and say it's fundable. If we do it within the next week and you want a decision next council meeting, fine. Then I feel like I'm doing the job that I was elected to do. Do I want more officers on the street? Absolutely. But I want because council come and go, mayors come and go, this is their career, and I want that sustained for whatever officers that's on the street, hired new this year or next year. I want to be able to have them retire. I want to be able to give them everything they need every year, their equipment, their new vehicles. I want to be able to sustain that. Right now, everything looks fine, but I got to sit here and make the tough decision for this year and next year. And I just want to make sure the numbers are right. And I really don't see what's wrong with that, because we are the fiscal body.
I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. I'm just saying when we go to workshop, it's just like Andy Crouch came up with a sidewalk plan 3 months ago, and we're still waiting on whether we want to find money to put in a sidewalk to another annexed area that they deserve sidewalks in their area, to another annexed area. We're still waiting on a decision for that. Down Middle Lane.
Middle road.
Down Middle Road, we're still waiting on a decision for a sidewalk from Pebble Creek to Allison Lane. He brought it to us 3 months ago. He brought it to us again tonight. We all shook our heads and said, thank you very much, and he walked on. If we're going to send it to... If we're going to go back and we're going to table this and we're going to look at it in a workshop, then let's make some movement on it. I don't want to rehash this every 3 months, every 2 months, every 6 months. Let's move on. He's put in a lot of time and effort in this. Those officers that you're wanting to sustain, they deserve more help on the streets. I saw 4 officers sitting today at Allison Lane and 10th Street directing traffic because the signal light was down. That's 4 officers that couldn't respond to an emergency in this city. We deserve better. Moving on.
The other thing before you move on, the other thing that's on the table is the COPS grant, and I don't know if you all have information on that. I've got some sheets that go over the COPS grant. That deadline is this week, and we need to apply for that. The most we can apply for is 3. That offsets cost up to $125,000 a year per officer, but, I mean, we can't apply for it if there's not...
Is there a reason why you waited till this council meeting to bring that up? I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, why...
We just got it about 2 weeks ago. It just came out about 2 weeks ago, so...
Are they normally that short?
Oh, yeah. And it's a very... And again, I didn't include that in any of this plan because that's an unknown number.
I sent that information to you all at least a month ago.
3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks ago.
When's that deadline?
June 23rd.
Chief, when do we know if we apply for that? When do we know if we got it?
You know, Dylan's not here. It's a few months.
But we can't apply for it until we say we're going to hire.
Correct.
And the last time we asked to hire,
I asked to hire 3 last year, and you guys approved 1, and we were denied.
And do you know why we were denied?
They don't say.
Do they...
A lot of it has to do with infrastructure, and mine and Dylan's feeling is this year we're in a better place because of the bridges projects, the federal money that's coming into the community for the bridges projects, and the homeland security issues that come along with those projects. So we feel we're in a better spot. But again, you know, that's a shot in the dark. All you can do is apply.
Chief, what's the plan for when the security, the private security that's being contracted now for the Big Four, what's that, 10 weeks left or whatever?
What's our plan? We'll have to just respond with units on the street to incidences down there. My overtime budget for the year can't sustain those numbers that we have now.
All right, well, I got most of this information the same time the Finance Committee did, and have talked with Heather and Amy about it. I've talked a little bit with the chief, and I think if we want to try to go after this grant, and obviously we're not all comfortable with 5 officers a year for 5 years just right now, but I would make the motion to give the chief the go-ahead to hire 3 officers and apply for the grant.
I'll second that.
And if we go to a workshop, we see if maybe we can rearrange some things, and we'll have some more discussion and see where we are, how we can go from there.
And what's the grant? I mean, is this similar to the other grants? It's like a,
Yeah, it's a COPS grant. It's like.
but I mean, it's like they get for so many years.
It's in the back of your walls. It's in your packet.
It's in the packet.
Here's another
It
copy.
has
just for
the
something else.
budget and everything in there.
Still more pages, you don't want to carry it?
Chief, the only thing I would ask is that when you get these grants, is to get them to us a little quicker than we only have.
Part of that was trying to get this plan together, trying to get the 5-year plan together and present it all at the same time. So,
You don't have a copy of the COPS in your packet, and there's the budget that Delynn gave me in it also. Under the Chief Grimm's presentation.
It's 36 months.
Call the question.
The third paragraph.
We have a first and second on the...
Wait, stop with the question.
Clarification on the motion, is the motion to go ahead and hire 3 officers and apply for the grant?
Yes.
I mean, but then if you don't get the grant, you still hire 3 officers? Or
Yes.
hire 3 officers?
We can't hire the officers contingent upon the grant. We have to say we're hiring. Is that correct?
I'm just asking for clarification, because even Les was asking.
Is that correct, Chief?
that's correct.
And technicality, we can't hire them, am I correct, if we hire them before we get the grant, they say, no, you already had them, it's 3...
Yeah.
You know my
Yeah,
question.
oh, absolutely. Are they already here? I'm not really sure. That's
Yep.
I
That's a good
think,
question.
Last
So they have to go ahead
year,
and
when
wait.
we hired a police officer for the schools, we approved it, and then, I don't know, 6 months later, but months later, they had money for a school officer, and we wasn't able to apply because we already hired the guy.
No, we'd already applied. We had applied, and here's I guess the point is, if you start the hiring process now, and again, without Delynn here to say really how long it takes for these grants to come in, I see your point though, Nathan. I don't know if there's a
I'm going to rescind that.
for a grandfather issue, or if they're already here, can you back pay? I don't know that.
I mean, I want to go along with that motion, but I want to make sure that we're not hurt. We're getting the
Right.
3
We're doing
police
that. I don't
wanna jeopardize
with this. I do not want them hired until we know whether or not we're going to get this grant, because
Okay.
I think it will put it in
I don't want to
jeopardy.
jeopardize this.
Right, I agree. I have no problem with that.
But for clarification, you're not saying that if we don't get the grant, we're not going to hire 3, correct? We're hiring 3 regardless, we just want to make sure that it falls in the boundaries
They're
within
not
this grant.
Yeah.
Specifically state that the hiring will not occur until
Yes.
a decision, we receive a decision in reference to the grant.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't want
You
to
amend your
jeopardize.
motion.
Right.
Yes. The motion was to hire 3 in conjunction with applying
The
for
grant.
this grant.
I second that.
First and a second, do we have any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And then I would still like
Was
to...
there, I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry.
was there public comment for this issue? Anything
Yeah, I'm
signed
going to
up?
pass that out, no public comment later on the agenda, but I think we'll already have people that put these hires on.
Can I also request a workshop to discuss
Yeah.
the rest of the plan? I think that's where Connie was going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we can do that.
Sooner than later.
Yeah, before our next meeting if we have to.
I agree. No, I think we need to do that for sure.
I understand, I completely understand the fiscal part of this, I really do. I think, we have to do our due diligence to provide the level of service that the people in this community deserve and are paying for. So, I would appreciate the workshop and to try to sit down and crunch these numbers and make it work, because I think the citizens deserve it. So,
And I appreciate you saying that, Chief, because I had said that I'm not saying I didn't want the officers, is because we're going, this year, we've already got our certified approved budget, we've got our circuit breakers, we're going outside that budget just to look at that to be sustainable, and for next year, as we go through the budget process, because each year, we're getting in less and less. We only get paid twice a year, as you know.
yes.
And you can't, that you talk about this surplus or the cash that we have on hand, but that's what we operate. So I just don't want to cut short, because I know it's not the police department's problem, but, I mean, here we are in June, and we've already had quite a number of additional appropriations. We have more tonight, and I just want to make sure everything, we hire these guys, they're here for their career.
Chief, the other thing that I might say might make your life a little easier
No, I doubt it, but go ahead.
is if you've been working on this for 3 months, it would make sense to come to a finance committee or council, a few council people, and say, hey, this is what I'm working on, rather than us seeing on 11 o'clock news 3 weeks ago that the city of Jeffersonville is going to hire.
Well, I can't control people
all
talk on the news, obviously, so.
All I'm saying is that message needs to be carried, because it makes your life easier.
Right. I don't know if it makes it easier for me to get up here and try to get 25 new police officers, but.
It sure makes it easier when we're not pinched in a corner.
Right.
You know, another thing too is River Ridge, there is a lot of growth and expansion, but it's all TIFed. We receive no property tax dollars from any of that TIFed areas up there. And that, I mean.
And maybe that's an outlet we explore. I don't know, how you explore those avenues, and, hopefully we can discuss that.
We do thankfully see a lot of gains in Lloyd and Edit and Cadgett.
We had 2 people that wanted to Terry Hicks.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Is Terry Hicks, you signed up, you wanted to speak on this?
Just very briefly. I understand both sides. I truly do. But, I live in the annexed area. And, we do see where there has been such a tremendous growth. And my biggest concern with any city is if you do not have strong police protection, strong fire protection, and strong EMS protection, then you're going to have a serious issue in any city. I agree that I could not imagine having somebody throw this kind of figures at me on a 4-day notice and ask me for that kind of money. But I do think that we have to add police protection to our city in order to keep it safe. We have more drugs, we have more crime, it's just continuous. We live across the city, or across the bridge from a huge city, and unfortunately more and more of it is coming across to us. With River Ridge there, with the meth clinics and the things that are going on, we are just seeing too much. And we're seeing it, out and where we're at. And unfortunately, when we call these guys, if they've got 17,000 things going on downtown, their response time to us is getting longer. And case in point, our house alarm went off. The gentleman that came to our house told me in the hour preceding him coming to my house, he had been on 5 additional runs. And they had all been horrific things, and mine was nothing. But like I said, I firmly understand where your guys are coming from.
Thank you.
But I am glad to see that you did at least give him 3 police officers this year. And I hope that, next year you're going to be able to see your way to give him at least 3 to 5 more. But I agree. I'm just glad to see that you all are willing to do that, and that you're going to continue to work with that, because you definitely need them.
Thanks, Terry. And Ron Smith.
Okay, my name's Ron Smith, 3310 Holman Lane. I would like, yes, to live in a very safe city, but I'd like to ask everybody in here, How many of you are in better shape financially now than you were 5 years ago? Right, amen. Are we not almost taxed out? I mean, the cap, are we not to the caps?
Yes.
All right, I promise you all, if you all vote for a tax increase, you'll all be gone. You ever heard of Mr. Eric Cantor? Well, that can happen in Jeffersonville. So don't get too smooth right here. So anyway, we got one on your council here that has no idea how much of the city budget is ate up with the policemen and the fire department. Now, would you all inform one guy over here to the right of Mr. Samuels, when this thing is over, that his 40% won't work, that is closer to about 78%. Now, how much more can us people or citizens of Jeffersonville afford? Do you see any new paint on homes? Do you see the repossession tax, the paper? Do you ever read that? Now, I think you better be looking at how many people are going to be able to afford this tax increase that you're probably going to be putting up with. And are we going to be like one of those California cities, 1 in 4 is bankrupt? Are we going to be Detroit? Are we going to be bankrupt? Are we going to be like the county of Clark County? $7 million they've spent that they don't even have? Hey, the chickens are going to come home to roost, and you better be watching what you vote for. And I think in this room right now, it's very obvious who's running for election, who's wanting to do the kissy-kissy the most. We've got 3 kinds of people in this room. We've got people that make things happen, people that watch things happen, and people that wonder what happened. And we've got some right here on this council that wonder what happened. So don't you better count your chickens. You better make sure, don't assume nothing that you're going to have all this money. All property values are down. I know what I'm talking about. America's broke, Indiana's broke, Clark County's broke, and is Jeffersonville going to be broke? You're trying to let some people talk you into, if you need the policeman, and we can afford them, hire them. I can't buy anything I can't afford. I deserve everything. But guess what? Somebody's got to pay for it.
Ron, we go 3 minutes. Thank you, though. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time.
Got another gentleman here.
Yes. Did you sign the sheet, sir?
No, sir, I didn't see that when I came in. I beg your pardon.
Just give your name and your address for
But
us.
may I continue?
We need your name and address.
Wes Bricker.
Wes?
Mm-hmm.
B-R-I-C-K-E-R?
That's right. 2919 Sherman Drive, here in Jeffersonville.
19
Sherman Drive. Now, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This gentleman here just had some good points. I don't think the citizens of Jeffersonville can afford 25 new police officers. Now, the chief of police says he was saying something about $5 million, but I was getting the impression that was maybe just to hire the officers off the bat. But we have to realize you have to pay for those officers for their entire careers. You're going to pay for all of their pensions and all of the equipment that they will require, unless you can get some federal grant money that's going to come with strings attached, I assure you, and you know that. I agree with this gentleman here on the end, Mr. Smith, I suppose it is, who doesn't think we can afford it. And this gentleman here, Mr. Payne, had a good question, too, about what is progressive law. Well, law enforcement is just that. When somebody breaks the law, the police are there to enforce the law. They are not necessarily out here to deter crime. And there's lots of examples where now the state legislators pass laws, but the smoking ban at companies and businesses is a good example, and they pass laws, but they expect these companies to enforce the laws, which is a proxy fascism. That's what it is. They're not law enforcement agents. They have no business enforcing the law, but because they make so many laws, these officers can't handle the workload. Now, what's more, if you go over the internet and look at some news sources, you'll see a lot of cases of police brutality across the country. And I'm afraid that if we expand our police department in
Mr.
that
Booker,
way...
we only give you 3 minutes. So.
All right, well, since I only had 3 minutes, let me bring this point up, Mr. Julius, since you interrupted me. Because in the newspaper, in the Tribune here, you yourself said he wants to look at alternative hiring, 25 police officers, alternatives to it, whether it be remote control patrol drones or volunteer police liaison crews for special events. Well, to a normal working fellow like me, that means spy drones and brown shirts. That's what that means. This is a dangerous precedent. It deserves deep consideration. It shouldn't be voted on tonight. Thank you for your time.
All right. What's that? What do we want to do? Okay. We need your name and your, even though I know it.
My name is David Newton. I live at 5701 Lincier Trace. That's the corner of Lincier Trace and New Chapel Road. The only place to get out for me is out Utica-Sellersburg Road. Same as Crystal Springs, Boulder Creek, what's the other one before me, all the horse names? Steeplechase, plus the surrounding area. Everybody goes out Utica-Sellersburg Road, one way out. Now, the city has tried to correct that situation. Unfortunately, it's been made worse. You can't outsmart ignorance, you know. But my point is, I'm going out yesterday, coming out of the filling station, you can only turn right. Somebody turns left and only almost hits me head on. If they do, then it's closed. All the people in all those subdivisions can't get out back there. You can't get a fire truck, ambulance, police, or anything in there. If you go straight back into Crystal Springs, on the left is a 10-foot or 20-foot wide fence that opens up onto the port road. If we could get some other way out of that, if y'all could look into that, would be appreciated. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Do we want to close this and move on?
Yeah, we need to move on.
We really need to move on, and I appreciate everybody coming and hearing through this.
Crime rate in my neighborhood in the last month is on stolen cars, houses being broken into. That's taxpayer dollars that we're paying for the police, and then we have to get our houses burned.
Thank you.
What neighborhood?
Apollo?
All right, Department Head Amir. Sit back here.
Yeah, he's coming.
Amir's going to give us an update on the wrecked fire truck.
What's that?
Everybody doesn't have to leave.
Hey,
Won't have anything to run them
there you go. I ran everybody off. That is good.
Direct representation.
Hey, good afternoon. Just briefly, I know the fire truck is a
Amir,
big number item.
I can't hear you. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now, okay.
All right. I just want to give you all a quick brief on where we are at with the fire truck. I know it's a big number item, so keep you all abreast of what's going on. Obviously, it's the fire truck that needs to either be fixed or replaced, and we've been working with our insurance carrier, the adjuster, and the fire department and member of the council who's been kind of involved in that. Where we are at today, the Travelers Insurance who insures us told us that their adjuster and the people that they work with at Pearson Global are saying that the cost of the truck at minimum is going to be $100,000 to fix. That has about 4 or 5 big spots that they do not know about. That includes the engine, alignment, the ladder. We believe once those things are added, we're going to be in the tune of $150,000 to $170,000. We had a third party ourselves that we contacted, a company out of Tipton, Indiana, RPI. RPI is telling us they believe that truck is going to cost somewhere about $170,000 to fix. So
107 or 70?
170,000.
170, okay.
So Travelers uses a third-party company to give us a value for what this truck is worth or was worth a minute before the crash. So they're saying at that moment that truck was worth somewhere about $260,000 and $270,000 range. And as a result of that, their position is that the truck can be fixed. We disagree with that. I don't think that truck can be fixed at their minimum price that they're saying, which is $100,000. I believe they're going to take that truck, we're going to pay $6,000 to get it towed to Pierce or Global, and then they're going to look at it and say, the engine is not repairable, the ladder is structurally damaged. So one of the, yes?
Real quick, just one thing I think that for those that don't know, when they did the estimate, they did it, basically, they took pictures and went back. They really didn't dig into that to find out the frame and stuff like that. So.
And they can't do that. Honestly, you need a specialized shop to be able to lift this thing up and take it apart. So that's where the $6,000 towing will come in if we have to send it to Wisconsin to get it checked. I talked to Travelers today, again, our adjuster, and one of the options potentially is that we own the truck outright, I believe, at this time. We don't owe anybody. There's no lien on it. One option may be once we figure out exactly how much the truck is worth, which they're saying about $270,000, and we get a good solid number of how much it's going to cost to fix it, and if it is in the tune of $150 to $170, which we believe it will be, then we just keep the truck. Travelers is going to send us a check for fixing it, and then we can make a decision whether we want to fix it or put that money toward another truck. And that's where we are at today.
Amir, let me ask a question. This process seems like it's taken forever to me.
It is, because there's so many companies involved.
Well, but my question is there a specialized insurance company that we should in the future be dealing with on these big apparatus, or should we stay with Travelers?
You know, there's only really less than maybe a handful of big companies that insure second-class cities and larger, just because they have to be big enough financially to take the risk on.
We don't get any even close insurance companies. Travelers, Acuity, HHC, maybe, I don't even think Westfield do.
And one of the things that I think we kind of need to look at is we're cycling through some of these insurance companies, and they all talk to each other, they all know each other, and eventually you get to a point that they know you've been through the other one, so that you're kind of back to them, and then they have you, so they're like, well, this is what our price is if you want to come back to us now. I don't think we're there right now. We can consider some of those options. We can look. We can certainly look to see if there's any other options, but I just want to give you up-to-date brief of where we're at. And
I think another thing to add to that, Amir, is if we take the truck, if we keep the truck, they pay us for the repairs. We can take that money and apply it to a new truck and yet scrap out parts of the old truck that may be worth more to other municipalities.
We can auction it off. There's several options that I think then can be discussed at more calmer period.
We're terrible at that. I can tell you, we don't follow through with too many of those.
Well, you know, I understand replacing the fire truck as part of the, and I'm not talking as a firefighter, I'm just talking as a risk. We're at the point that we need to make a decision to replace that fire truck. The city is down to one ladder truck at this time, and that's operationally not a good thing.
Well, that's what concerns me. So, I mean, the ladder truck that we have is our oldest one.
Absolutely.
What year is that?
I'd let the fire chief speak on those. That's outside of my scope.
96.
It's an older fire truck.
Well, this back and forth, when can we get to where you've got enough information where we can make that decision? Because it seems like the insurance companies, because the longer we wait, it's longer that apparatus.
I have been stern with them pretty much, but you got to understand that everybody's using third-party companies to stay as neutral as possible. So you're on everybody else's schedule. So once I send the email, that email goes to somebody else, and it is life. It's the person that's dealing with our cases on vacation. They're on vacation. Nobody's jumping up and down to get to that. It is what it is. We are pushing on them. today at least I've talked to travelers 10 times. Saturday, Sunday, I was sending them emails back to back, insisting. So we're doing our part. Unfortunately, sometimes the third-party companies, we're not their customer. They really don't. They're not in a hurry.
And to your point, Dennis, it seems like our Amir and Chief Hedrick are kind of carrying the water on this. Our insurance company is not knocking our doors down to move anything. I know Mike's aware that she's been involved in more than anything. I just dropped by there today. They're carrying the water, trying to move this process along.
And, we met with that justice came down, in my opinion, a little bit slow, but he came down and he looked at it because they're coming from other places in the country that, they have to. And he took pictures in front of me, emailed them to the people he should have at Pearson Global, and they said first they didn't receive it. He resended those stuff, and then he was told that they'll get to us. They have other customers. And that message was given to me in email and verbal that there are other customers and they're working. So we're doing our part in a way of pushing them. And we actually kind of, in a way of complaint, took our complaint all the way to upper management of Travelers, and they stepped in with Global and Pierce. And once they made a few phone calls, within 24 hours, we got an estimate of cost, but it took that much of work to get that to us. Yeah. So.
I think one thing too is, and I think most of you have looked at the truck, and it's not that the doors tore off or the doors knocked off. I mean, structurally, the whole thing's set like this, and I think you got a combination of the fact that even if you repair this truck, the confidence in this truck is not going to be there among the men and women of the fire department, obviously. And so, at some point, I mean, I believe that we probably will need move forward to purchase a truck. And because of keep in mind that truck was an 03 and to develop at River Ridge, the growth out there, so probably going to need a little bit longer ladder and a few things like that.
I would ask the council to consider the idea at least that we would have to purchase a truck no matter what. The question now is how much money do we get and where do we put that? And that can happen as we move forward, but I think the council working with the fire department will have to make a decision at one point or another. Do we want to move forward, and how quickly do we want to move forward? I think the process is slow. When you're looking at speccing out a fire truck, we're talking about 6 to 18 months. And, I think we probably need to make some decision, hopefully tonight, that we want to go ahead and do a replacement of a truck, and then we'll work on getting some money.
Make a good backup.
I know.
Lisa, we have been moving forward with Councilman Smith's been involved in a couple of meetings. We've actually been trying to do some of that specking of a truck out with the anticipation of getting a new one. Of course, they haven't made any investment in, they actually have a chassis that already has a ladder on it that's kind of on the assembly line they're holding for us. But somebody could buy that tomorrow. Hopefully they don't. But they're kind of holding that for us, so when we do get that okay, I'm thinking it might be 120 days instead of
How big a truck, how big a ladder is that?
That ladder is a 107-foot ladder.
How long is the one that crashed?
75.
Okay.
So if we give the okay to go ahead and get this so we don't lose it, and then we can apply, how do you all feel about that? Because
I just actually sent an email to Travelers as we were talking, saying that in summary, it is correct that they're going to send us a check for fixing this truck. We'll wait for a response from them.
Mr. Samuel's requesting a workshop.
Another one?
It's not funny anymore.
That's an inside joke.
The only thing I have is,
We're going to have to get one.
correct, if we have, I mean, right.
We're going to have
The
to
question is this, and this is a legal question. Do we need to, I guess it would be the mayor, claim a state of emergency for this? Otherwise, we have to go through a whole process. There's a chassis and a ladder that fits our needs, and you'll be able to actually spec out the boxes and everything you want to get the truck. Okay, we get that, but we cannot commit to that unless there's a state of emergency or something similar. Is that correct?
You're talking about not going through the bidding process.
Yes.
So you're saying, yeah, there's a statute for, Board of Public Works and other agencies can do bypass publicly for true emergencies.
Well, Wednesday, I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box. I mean, Wednesday, if that can be done, would that help us? And again, if for some reason the frame is good and the ladder's good, I mean repairable, and I think the question was asked, would this make a good backup truck? Well, if they're going to rebuild it and they're going to certify the pump, certify the ladder, and everything is certified by a third party, and they're saying, guys, here's the keys, it passes everything, yeah, it might be a good backup truck for us. But at that point, we haven't got there yet. But
Honestly, I worry a lot. When I did the investigation, looking at the scene, this truck should have rolled over. I think the only reason it didn't roll over is because how deep the mud was. And so when you look at the pictures and you go on site, you could see that this truck was doing this number, and at one point it was deeper on one side and the other side was deeper next, which means the truck torqued. And I mean, you've all probably have dealt with cars that they have tried to realign, and it's never the same. And when you start looking at a fire truck that's going to be going fast and coming to hard stops and doing all sort of stuff, I think overall risk, when they're saying it's going to cost $100,000, $150,000 potentially, or $170,000 to a truck that's worth only $260,000, I think the council will have to really look at that and say, do we want to...
The sheet that, I don't have it, but I have it in my truck, and you guys are welcome to see it. Basically, all the heavy stuff, all the big dollar stuff, they left vacant. They left, they charge you, they'll fix the door, paint this, all that stuff, the cosmetic stuff, so to speak, is there. But when it gets into the engine, because it's got a hole in the oil pan, when it gets into the chassis, when it gets into the ladder, the big ticket items, that's all left blank. So the $100,000 is $96,000, but $100,000 isn't really getting into what you don't see. It's the cosmetics.
Yeah. For example, to add on to what Councilman Smith says, the $100,000, the $96,000 is a mark of, for example, on the frame, they charge us for a frame inspection, but the repair is left blank. Well, the repair of the frame on something like this is a big deal. The engine that it was submerged in water and running, that's a big deal when the oil pan. So the suspension's not included. So I think that 100,000 mark is really it's a number that we have in writing, but it's also a number missing the hydraulics. Hydraulics was missing. So it's missing about 5 key areas of repair that might add up to $20,000 or maybe $60,000. But they're all pretty big deals. But
thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Going to unfinished business, we got Amy Deering, public hearing on ordinance of additional appropriation.
What you have before you is 2014 OR 25. No changes have been made with the additional amounts, but we have added 4 reduction items that were the circuit breaker cuts. They were discussed at Finance Committee meeting last Thursday. This is up for approval.
We need to open a public.
Oh, is this the thing?
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, but are we leaving the parks on here since Paul didn't come, or?
No, we were waiting on Ed.
We're waiting on Ed. So are we leaving that on there?
In the finance meeting, you all decided to leave the 400 some odd thousand in the parks budget until Ed could come back and give some input.
Yeah, then we'll deal with it.
Because it's there. I mean, all of it is there, but...
Okay, we need to open a public hearing, I believe, don't we, Scott? Yes. Public hearing is now open. Does anybody come to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve on the second and third reading.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We need to do the rest of them like that, gang. Amy Deering, 2014 OR 29, an ordinance transferring funds within the same department.
Yes, this was approved on first reading at the last meeting. There have been no changes.
I make a motion, we pass it on the second, third reading.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Thank you.
All right. Les Merkley, 2014 OR 28, ordinance prohibiting unauthorized camping, passed on first and second reading.
Again, this is an ordinance that basically outlines or establishes two things. One, a prohibition on any camping on public property, and also, more importantly, it establishes the procedure that our law enforcement officers are to follow when enforcing that prohibition. And I've had some emails and correspondence with representatives from the mayor's homeless task force. They are comfortable with it. There was one suggestion that, the administration has a standing policy that was adopted at the Board of Public Works that before we do any sweeps or remove any homeless camps in the city, that we would work with the various homeless advocates, including Exit Zero and the churches and so forth, before we do that. I don't believe it would be wise to put that in this ordinance, just because I think sometimes we have to be careful that just putting everything in ordinances is not always the solution. You got to leave some flexibility, and I think leaving that at the Board of Public Works gives the city more flexibility than putting it in an ordinance.
Les, I got to follow up on what you said about you received feedback. I know that I forwarded all that to the council from Ms. Keeney. Two questions I think that she brought up, and I'm just curious, were they dealt with, or why weren't they? One was, she says something about they would ask that the scope of the ordinance be limited to this area, since public parks are already limited by being closed at a certain time.
I don't feel comfortable from a legal standpoint of just adopting an ordinance that just deals with one area of the city. Right. I think we have much stronger, this is an ordinance that has been upheld legally in other cities and other communities, and I think if you just say we're just going to apply this to one area of the city or one park, I think you've got some legal issues that we would have to answer in federal court.
Sounds fair. And the second thing was about, you said broadening the scope of the ordinance that to include private property seems unnecessary.
Again, it's a model ordinance that has withstood scrutiny from the courts. I think at the end of the day, with very little we can do about private property anyway, but I think this, again, it's a way for us to ensure that this is not stricken by the court.
She did express appreciation, said it hit a lot of things. They appreciate that. So I just, because I stopped it last time from going through on all three, I wanted to at least let them have a voice, and they had their voice. So. Thank you, Les.
No problem.
I make a motion to pass on third reading 2014 OR 28.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I will say, although you said it is a model ordinance, I think that the language is unnecessary to include private property, so I'll be voting against it for that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Les, you're up. 2014 R11. A resolution approving and ratifying interlocal agreement between Clark County Maintenance Repair of county-owned vehicles. It was tabled 5/19.
And I think we tabled that before because it was missing some language. It went from page 1 to page 4.
Well, and we changed, Amy, did you change the dollar amount?
So,
did you look into that?
I understand.
That's how we gave it to you.
I understand.
Can you talk louder?
I talked to Debbie about that, and it was $6.99 for the insurance cost per hour per employee. And we added $13 for his employees' hourly cost. That brought it up to $20. That's what those numbers mean.
And I'm going to make it easy for you, because we're still missing some pages in your packet, so just table it.
It's not all here. I make a motion to table.
Second.
Oh, we're tabling it again?
Can we workshop it?
We could. Can I ask a quick thing,
Sure.
please? Can you get me one that is all one-sided?
make sure they're not back and forwards. And also, this resolution, the month needs to be changed on it too. We've been working on it since May.
Okay, last year, 2014 R13 was canceled.
We need to take a vote. There's a motion and a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Whichever order.
All right, we'll go to new business, Art Gear. Southeast Marines 2014 Car and Motorcycle Show.
It's been an exciting night so far.
Glad you've enjoyed it.
I understand. Probably upside down.
My name is Art Gear. We are with the, along with our Commandant, Mike Maloney here. We are with the Southeast Marines, Indiana Detachment 1394 of the Marine Corps League. I'm sure you all know what the Marine Corps is. The Marine Corps League is a congressionally chartered veterans organization whose members join together to preserve the traditions, promote the interest, and perpetuate the history of the United States Marine Corps. We voluntarily aid and render assistance to all Marines and Fleet Marine Force corpsmen, as well as their widows and orphans. We are Marines helping Marines, and Marines helping our community. Basically, what we're here today is two reasons. One, we want to kind of identify ourselves to you, let you know what we do. You can use us as a resource for Toys for Tots, one of our biggest programs. We'd love your help in any way you could in collecting those toys, but also as a resource for giving those toys back to the community. So please don't hesitate to touch base with us on that. We're also here for our second annual car show at Graham Wells. Last year, we flirted with the rain all day long, and about 10 minutes after the last car left, it poured down rain. So we call that a success. So we just wanted to come here today to invite you to the car show. We'll have, Jeff Police has been kind enough to offer a SWAT vehicle and some other officers, as well as Jeff Fire. We'll have some elements of the Scottsburg National Guard. Lots of stuff for the kids to do, so we're just here to ask you to come on out.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Hey, Art, thank you for your service, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for your service.
We're also actively recruiting Brian Glover here, who's also a former Marine, if anybody
Thank you for
didn't
your
know.
service.
Thank you. All right, next we have Matt Hall and Wendy Chesser from One Southern Indiana. And hopefully you've enjoyed your evening.
We've had a wonderful evening, thank you. Any thoughts I may have ever had about elected office, I just have gone out the window, but thank you. Thank you all for your time. One Southern Indiana, as you know, is the economic development and chamber organization for Clark and Floyd counties. As of last week, we have 985 business members. So as we think about what we do, we are supporting the business community, and we look for partners to help us with that support. We honestly believe, and I've said this many times, the best social program in the world is a good paying job. And so that's the premise under which our economic development team works. And our report to you this evening is to give you your return on investment for your investment, or the residents of the city of Jeffersonville's investment in One Southern Indiana's activities. Now, economic development is a team sport, and we are here to talk about our team, and there are many team members. We definitely consider the city of Jeffersonville one of our teammates as we move forward. You've been great teammates, and we thank you for that. And to report on this year's performance of the team, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Hall. We call him Coach. So he's the coach of our team. He's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the successes we've had this year. Matt.
Thanks, Wendy, and thank you all for allowing us this opportunity to sort of report up to the team. We appreciate that. There are two documents that I gave you. The first is this, what we call a Partnership for Progress. I'm going to focus on that, and I won't go through every single thing given our time constraints tonight. But if you look at the first on page 2, we talk about the 106 projects that One Southern Indiana has announced. And again, we represent Clark and Floyd counties. That top chart, or that top pie chart, shows you how those break out in terms of existing companies and new companies to the area. The bottom chart shows how many of those projects, or we broke those projects out by municipality. You will see that Jeffersonville, 61 of those projects are located in the city of Jeffersonville. On page 3, we talk about the new jobs that those 106 projects have committed to, 9,650 of them. Out of those jobs, 7,400 are within the city of Jeffersonville.
Hey, Matt, has there been another city that's come close to us on job creation
No.
in the state of Indiana?
We don't have comparable numbers to track that the way that we would have it for our projects.
Would you like to step out on a limb and guess?
City of Indianapolis has a lot of job growth opportunities because of its size. I would say that, not knowing what the climate is like in Fort Wayne or South Bend, I would say that if we're not 1 or 2, we're probably within the top 5.
Okay.
I'm going to skip, again, I don't want to go through every single chart with you and bore you to pieces with numbers, but...
This is the good stuff. Take as much time as you want.
Yeah.
Okay, then I will. Page 4 is our new payroll. $340 million annually are being created by these 106 projects. And if you look again at that sort of aquamarine column, $258 million annually are being generated in Jeffersonville. Page 5, we talk about new capital invested by these companies. Total of $775 million in Clark and Floyd counties. Jeffersonville's piece of that is $663 million. When we talk about return on investment, you go to page 6, we took every dollar that the city of Jeffersonville has invested in One Southern Indiana since July of '06. And we divided that by 2 numbers. One is the first sheet you see on page 6, and that is the new taxable capital. For every dollar that is invested by the city of Jeffersonville, these projects have returned $3,348.55 in new capital. If you turn the page to page 7, we took that same number and divided by that payroll number, and for every dollar invested into our economic development program, these projects are generating $1,306.28 annually in payroll dollars. The next page, page 8, talks about our business retention and expansion activities. The top chart, we've been on nearly 1,700 BRE visits to date. I can tell you that roughly between 85 and 90% of those have been within the city of Jeffersonville. And then this blue chart talks about our projects and prospect activities. If you look, 199 of the interest that we have in projects are within Clark and Floyd counties. 518 are outside of Clark and Floyd counties. So we have a lot of interest outside of our area, interested in our area. But if you go back to those results charts, clearly our bread and butter are existing businesses. Page 9, which talks about our new business attraction efforts. We regularly submit Jeffersonville properties for projects and complete RFIs, or requests for information, to site location consultants and corporate real estate executives nationwide. We host companies on site tours, building tours, and community tours routinely. We maintain a database of available sites and buildings that we market both from our website and from the state's website. And we also do a lot of work with River Ridge in terms of supporting them for a mega site designation for that property. On page 10, we talk again about domestic and international marketing. We have done a limited number of international trips because we have a limited budget, frankly. We're not doing as much as we should, but we have done two trips abroad, and we are planning another trip to Japan in October. We have seen results from those trips. We do a lot of direct marketing to site location consultants, telling them about Jeffersonville, telling them about Southern Indiana and why they should be here, or recommend this location. Page 11, again, talks about our business retention and expansion efforts. I won't bore you with all the details, but we do a tremendous amount of work with existing Jeffersonville companies. Some of those are listed at the top of that page. And the areas that we focus in are sort of checked marked off down that page. I will give credit to Kathleen Crowley, who heads up that program. It's been very successful. And I'll let Wendy talk a little bit more about our advocacy work that we do at One Southern Indiana.
Thanks, Matt. As you can see, the numbers are good. And part of the reason that the numbers are good in Jeffersonville is that we work with you and with many of our other partners to create a good business environment. And those are what our advocacy efforts are about. How do we make sure that the infrastructure is in place, that the community is friendly to the new businesses that are looking at the area, and also very supportive of those existing businesses that are looking to grow here. Many of them have started here, and they're growing here, and they want to stay here. So we're trying to figure out ways to make this a good business environment. And I'd like to say, once again, thank you to each of you individually. With all of the representatives of the city, you've been a fabulous partner for us. We hope that you're as pleased with your return on the $30,000 investment as we are. The biggest number, I'll go back to the comment I made about the good social program is a good paying job. $258 million of annual payroll comes to this area because of the companies in the city of Jeffersonville that we've been working with. Bravo. I wish I had that comparable number from not only what else is going on in the state of Indiana, but across the nation. I think that we would look very favorably as that return on investment, and we hope to continue to do that for you and with you in the future. That's the purpose of our being here tonight, so we'll answer any questions if we can.
Has there been any feedback from companies that have shied away from this area that you can say this is something that we may want to look at? I mean, has it been housing? Has it been infrastructure? Has it been any of those things?
Yeah, I think Matt and I both whispered the same thing. Our biggest challenge is workforce. We have employers out there today who are saying they can't find the workforce with the skills that they need to hire them today. That is not just a challenge in the city of Jeffersonville or Clark County or southern Indiana or the state of Indiana or the Midwest. That is a national challenge. And it's an issue that we need to find a solution for. We're up here telling you we're the cheerleaders, the rah-rah for economic development. But it doesn't matter how nice your sites are or how good your infrastructure is. If companies get to the point where they cannot find workers to make themselves profitable, they will not locate here and they will not stay here. Now that's sort of the negative Nelly side of the coin. The other side of the coin is when I've asked site selectors, folks who do this regularly and talk to communities, I said, okay, I understand we've got that issue. Tell us who we can emulate. Give us those positive models. We know Washington, D.C. is not going to hand us the solution, and quite frankly, Indianapolis isn't going to hand us the solution. This is a local issue which will have local solutions. Who's a good community to model? And the answer that I've gotten back consistently is nobody. So there's not a community in the country that has this figured out. So as we work to try to figure this issue out to help us stay competitive, not just with new jobs or new companies coming in, but to help those existing employers find what they need to remain profitable, we are going to have to work together for that solution. And at some point, we're working with the K through 12 schools. We're working with higher ed. We're working with the technical schools. We're also trying to work with Work One and some of the other service providers to find solutions to the workforce challenges that unfortunately are going to get worse as the baby boomers move into retirement, but at the same time it's going to be a real issue for today, for our employees today, but also for our kids' futures.
One of the things I had asked Matt and Wendy to do for us, which they did, I guess it was last week or the week before, is create us with a worksheet when they're presenting us with a company that they're asking for a tax abatement. And that worksheet shows us not only the taxes that we're relieving on personal and property, but what kind of income we're going to derive from that over a short period, or over a 5-year period, or however they want to do it. But that is information that we need in order to keep giving these tax abatements and feel more comfortable giving those. So, and they did that right after we asked them. They've come through with that, so I applaud them for that.
I'll just add, you also have this document here which has a list of all of those 106 projects that we talked about. The ones that are in this really interesting pink color are the Jeffersonville projects. So that'll give you a breakout of each of those so you can see who they are and where they are and what those projects entail. But we'd be happy to answer any questions about the work we're doing.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
All right, still new business. Michael Smith, discussion of the extension of 911 consolidation budget.
Yeah, in our meeting we had several weeks ago, I believe I sent the email out. We have got all of the, I'm on the fiscal board, and we've got all of the building requirements, what we need to do as far as the existing building. We're in the process of ordering all the equipment, all kinds of computer-aided dispatch equipment. the hang-up that we've had is the personnel issue. And there's several members on that board. It's Mayor Hall of Charlestown, I think Chief Hedrick's on the board, and a couple county people's on the board, Kelly Curry and Jack Hoffman. And I think they've gotten very close to that. So at our last meeting we had, we agreed to, or the board has agreed to give the final budget by July 1st, and because of the personnel issues, and one of the problems they've had is they have sent questionnaires out to all the municipalities asking for information, and some of that information has come in kind of slow. So, and then there is some conflicting information as well, and they're trying to sort through that. But they've had multiple meetings, that group has, outside of our meeting, trying to put this together. So all their, every representative is going to their municipality and ask for an extension for that, simply because of personnel. So that was my job to bring it to you guys. Just, anyway, so.
Update. Good deal.
But I'm just, we're asking, yeah, but the.
Do we need a motion for that? No?
No, it's just, he's talking about the action of this fiscal board. It's going to
Yeah.
submit budget. He's just picking up.
Well, but I'm saying that we're asking that we won't be able to meet the July 1st deadline because of the personnel getting the information back, and I'm asking to extend it to August 1st.
So he would need a motion.
I mean, they made the same request to the county council.
Right.
County council's like, there's no motion, just acknowledge that.
Okay.
Okay.
But all municipalities have done this, and it should be a one-time deal.
Okay.
Okay.
So how does that work, Scott? I mean, if they're bound by the ordinance that everybody agreed to and passed on a date, and we don't have to approve them for an extension.
Well, the way they discussed it to the county council is that they are going to submit something in the interim thing by July 1st. But then it probably would be, the final would be August 1st. So they are going to submit something by July 1st before they explain it to the county council.
Well, I didn't, yeah, I mean,
Because Kelly Curry was the member on that. So
Yeah.
she said they are submitting something July 1st, and it's going to try to be a good faith effort to be the final budget, but then it'll probably not.
Might need to be amended.
So there'll have to be an amendment. So they
Yeah.
are, the way it was described, they will submit something by July 1st. So that's why we didn't take action. It's something that was like the action agency.
I just hate to set a precedence that date that's in the ordinance doesn't mean anything. Because, 5-10 years from now, if the board, whoever that is at the time, decides that, they're not going to provide a budget number, then the municipalities are going to be left, without the ability to project their budget for the following year.
But I mean, technically, since it's part of an interlocal agreement, if you're going to have official action, all the entities would have to do an interlocal agreement.
Right.
So I mean, it's like, even if you voted, you can't unilaterally amend the interlocal agreement because the board can. So, I mean, they're just advising the entities to are part of the interlocal agreement, and then I don't do that because I'll just sort of. Okay, so when you say like whether we should take action on it, so we can't unilaterally, it's a part of it. I don't know what to tell you.
I understand what you
It's
mean.
unnecessary.
I understand what you mean. We don't have to spend time on it right now. I understand what you mean.
Thanks, Scott. Kelly Phillips, resolution finding substantial compliance with statement of benefits for tax abatement for 2014.
Kelly, do you wish you could have gone first?
Yeah, I do. I think you all have the resolution in front of you, along with a spreadsheet listing the 25 companies that filed for tax abatement this year, as well as their estimated job numbers and salaries from their statement of benefits form when they first applied for the tax abatement, and the actual job numbers and salaries for this year. So this is just a standard
Little thing, right?
thing every year. Yeah, we have to approve these within 45 days of the filing deadline, which was May 15th. And send a copy of the resolution to the county so that they're aware that we are continuing the abatement.
Motion to approve 2014 R15.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Kelly, if they are way off, which a few are, do anything about that?
You can deny their abatement. I will, there are a few that look For example, there's one that has 7 actual jobs, but the estimate is 194.
Right.
Keep in mind, I have that starred, that's part of a larger development, and so you really have to add all the companies together that are in that development to get the actual job number, and not all of those companies file for their abatement every year, so we don't have their job figures, so there's no way for us to have the actual real total. I know some of them are off, the majority that are really far off are in that development.
Okay. Thank you.
But we have a policing entity that
comes through these. Yeah, that comes through them.
Yeah, I mean, we need that.
As far as what?
If they aren't fulfilling their part of the agreement,
Right.
then we shouldn't fulfill ours.
And that's, I mean, you're the designated body, so.
If you feel one of those is not met what they promised to do, then you go.
Right.
Yeah, I think cities need to definitely rely on the information.
Right. Right.
Obviously, we assume it's the
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can only go off the numbers they report to us. We don't have another way to know it. So if a company isn't filing, and we don't have the reported numbers, there's not a way for us to know that.
I would make a motion to approve 2014 R15 with discussion or caveat of those that haven't met their targets, if they would just be contacted just to say, hey, the council's looking at that, just try to encourage them for next year to make
They
sure.
sent, I mean, part of the ordinance that was passed by city council requires them to send a letter stating why the numbers haven't been met.
Okay.
So the companies, other than the companies that are in this North Shore development, which you really can't include them in that, the other companies, pretty much all of them, I believe all of them send that letter with the form, and basically it's, you know, the economy, they haven't been able to meet their numbers, usually because of something to do with that. They've had to decrease workforce or so on and so forth. If there's a specific company you want to know about, I'd be happy to look into it.
Well, I'm just looking down here. I think one of them that Councilman Samuel looking at is probably the same one I'm looking at. It's way under the actual jobs created. But looking at the resolution number, that thing, it should already be expired. Because it was a 10-year resolution, it was passed in 98.
Okay, well, the 98 is the one I was talking about. That's the North Shore development. So you have, I don't even know how many companies are in that development, 20-something companies. So you have to add all their job totals together. So their estimated job total is 194 for the entire development. So this one company has 7 employees, the next one has 12. You would have to add all those together. Not all of them are listed. I believe this is also the last year for the abatement for that development. And just because the resolution was passed in 98, they have 10 years. It's a 10-year period, and the 10 years starts from whenever the project completion date starts. So that's not necessarily the year the resolution was passed.
Gotcha.
Would you like to restate your motion, please?
To approve, or 2014 R15 to be passed with, I guess just following back up with any of these that were concerns.
Okay.
Just tell them we are watching it. We want them to make sure and understand. I don't want them to just think we're not looking at it and they don't have to try to create jobs.
We've all second.
We have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Lisa Gill, JNLA.
I'd like to have Josh come up, or whoever needs to, because he's going to present on National Night Out and request some funding.
Good evening. Josh Rodriguez, JNLA Chairman. National Night Out is coming up August 5th, 2014, and the JNLA is here to request some funding. I think last 3 years you guys have provided $6,000 for that. Just want to run some numbers to you. 38 million people, United States and its territories, over 15,000 communities, 2,200 people in Jeffersonville. 180 of those are children we supply school supplies to. 22 neighborhoods, and we're thinking there's roughly 50 neighborhoods, give or take a few, so that's a little less than half. And we've won 3 awards in the last 3 years. So that money that you guys fund goes right back into the neighborhoods. National Night Out is a crime-fighting night. At the end of those nights, you're supposed to go home and turn on your porch light. That's part of that. We get some of those participation that don't have a barbecue or a band or a bounce house that just turn on a light. So we're here. We did have some representatives, but you guys wore them out and they went home. So they all have on a blue shirt. So you can see those. John Leach, his neighborhood Rolling Fields, participated last year. We've got the Optimus Club who wants to participate. There's a couple neighborhoods out towards Charlestown that want to do this, and I think Clarksville is going to try to get on board. So, you know, we're the front runner in this, so we're hoping you guys can fund it.
You're requesting 6?
6. We feel like that's the number you guys have started with, so no need for us to ask for any more, any less. And we will, you know, of course, put that money to use in the neighborhood, so.
Lisa, do you remember where that came from?
Council Special Projects.
Special projects?
Is that fundable, Amy?
Yes. $72,000.
So moved.
Second?
Any other discussion?
Maybe, I got one thing. Instead of
You've had your time.
coming up here every year and asking for money, if we could maybe make this an annual thing for Jeffersonville. We're in the process of getting some T-shirts with JNLA logo on it, National Night Out logo, and the City of Jeff logo. I know Nathan at one time said, let's make this a Jeffersonville thing, and we're definitely going to try to do that. Kate Miller is working on that now. So we definitely want to keep doing that event. You know, it is proactive in criminal activity, which we heard tonight there is a lot of, and I'm sure all the neighborhoods could come up here and tell you a story about a crime that's going on in their neighborhood. So,
Josh, what do you mean by you want to make this annual?
You want to get it in the budget?
I don't want to have to come in here every year and do this. I'd rather come and present the award. To be honest with you, 2.5 hours that I've been here, you know, I'd rather be at home with my kids eating dinner and playing video game with them or something, you know.
Gee, thanks.
I think I spend enough time over there in the 2 hours, usually or 3 hours that I'm here for playing and zoning that, you know, but I would like to see the City of Jeff be a part of that and not have to come and request it every time. And you know, you guys all participated in some sort of National Night Out fundraiser. And so every year we try to grow that program, and every year that it has grown.
Can I say something? Have we voted on it yet?
No.
Anyway, well, I just want to tell something. My neighborhood kind of got involved. The first year we had like 20. I was excited that 20 people showed up, to be quite honest with you. Out of the Meadows, even though there's 800 homes in our subdivision. And then last year we had over 40, and we decided to really go and try to start the neighborhood association. And it took off. I mean, we had to hand deliver everything through 800 homes, so it was really hard. And then we thought, well, we'll do what Josh does, and we'll make signs and we'll put them at the beginning of our neighborhood. We had a record crowd because people thought we were forming a homeowners association. So if you really want to get people at your neighborhood, just put up the sign, I'm telling you. And then when they realized what we were doing, they were all okay, and they wanted to come back. They asked Linda Mills to come and talk about code enforcement. So we had over 40 people there last time at our neighborhood meeting at the Y. And our next meeting's tomorrow.
The next National Night Out meeting is the 23rd at 7 p.m. Since you don't have city council meeting next week, it's going to be at the community garden. I would welcome you to come. All the neighborhoods that are formed or have a board or a group will be there. It's mandatory for them to come. So if you want to come and see what the money is going towards, I think it's a good opportunity for you to come out. The community garden's on Park Place. I'm sure everybody knows where it's at. 7 p.m. Yes, ma'am. I could do that. If you are here for JNLA, would you please stand up? And I'll just... Susan Steinberg is our secretary, and Kate Miller is our vice president. Veronica Eastridge has 2 young kids and she had to leave, and Mike Zapp, I think he need to go home and go to bed, is our treasurer. And so, you know, all those neighborhoods are well established, so that's all I have.
Thanks, Josh. And we will take note of that on our budget meeting.
No, we need to vote.
if we can remember that.
I'll make a motion, though. Do we need a motion for that?
I think we just need a vote.
No, to make it yearly? Oh.
Well, first we have
Do that in the budget.
voted on the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, we'll do that in the budget meeting.
Motion second.
Prior.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh.
Attorney's report, Scott?
I have one item tonight. The clerk, I think, had previously passed out the required nepotism forms in terms of this Indiana code that came about a couple years ago. Those just have to be signed by the officers. There's one thing that does have to have a vote of the body. This involves densities. The contract's up with Walnut Ridge, and I'll show you where to sign, and we'll have Lisa sign as the vice president, as the presiding officer for that. So that's just the standard state disclosure form. So that we need to vote to accept the disclosure statement. File with the clerk.
So you'll have to take over the meeting.
Well, I mean, I think we just acknowledge for the motion, because the presiding officer has to sign, just that for this vote, the vice president will be the presiding officer to sign.
And I'm abstaining from...
Yeah, you abstain from voting. The body has to accept. We did this last year.
So moved.
Second. Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Scott, do you have anything else?
No, that was it. Just Denison signs too. So yeah, you're going to sign there.
We had public comment. Alan Finkbeiner?
Denison's going to sign.
No. Speeding on Allison Lane.
He also has to sign here.
We wore him out too. Everybody else has spoken. Okay. Oh, did you sign?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see you.
Probably right here. What's this?
Oh, about parking, I'm sorry. Rebecca, Doss, and...
Did they leave?
They did, yeah. Parking on 303 West Market? And is it Rebecca Doss?
Yeah.
Okay. And Scott Boer? Okay.
This is my brother.
Sorry, I didn't mean to overlook you.
That's okay. It's late. We are actually here representing our father, Pete Moore, or James Robert Moore. He lives on the 303 West Market Street, and which is on the corner of Mulberry and Market. And the parking issues have been that since the bridge has opened, it's been going on for quite some time, but it is beginning to escalate, and to the point that there is absolutely no parking at all on Mulberry, not even his driveway entrance, which is a big concern. What we are asking is for residential parking and to be towed from his driveway back because his property is zoned for rental. We do need designated parking for the tenants, future tenants, and for him as well.
So you need two. Mr. Markley?
Yeah.
Right.
They grant the residential parking.
Who is it?
Who is it?
Board of Public Works.
Wednesday morning at 9:30, Mayor's Conference Room, second floor.
I know.
She wants to go
I have to
more
make-
towards
read it
the
over.
housing moratorium on residential parking. Yes, because of the lack of parking.
You need to sign and date it here, and also sign and date
Once the park is complete, there will be residential parking. But I mean, right now, it's a situation, we grant everyone residential parking, it's going down, definitely parking.
Well, that's understandable, but there was parking there on Market previously, which was taken away, and it is very pretty. Be honest, since this whole entire project has begun, there has been quite a disregard for my father and the information that he has been provided. He has not complained. For 5 years, he has been withstanding the construction that's been going on. He has been at the brunt of. I don't know if you all know where this property is, but if you do, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think at the very least, At the very least, this is what you all can do for him.
Where's this property?
This property is located at the corner of Mulberry and Market, which is right across from the landing that is fixing to open. The stairway that's going to open. Yes.
And I would suggest that this is not the appropriate body to bring up these issues. I would suggest that you go to court.
Did you say he has a driveway, or did you
He does
just...
have a driveway. And
That
it
he's
is
allowed to
being
pull
blocked.
into the property off the street, or...
Blocks it, like the road, they'll just park.
Have you all called the police when your driveway's blocked?
No, I have been policing it myself for a good week now.
I wonder, is it, because I know Pete and I've talked to him, is it painted? I mean, is that area, is it dry?
Honestly, Mr. Dixon was down there Friday.
Okay.
And they are just getting ready to start the construction of the new sidewalk that's going through there. And they are going to fix the entrance to that. So when I asked him about, about the designated parking, then, he said, well, he didn't do that either. So, we're trying to find answers here.
But no, there's no markings for, there's no, signs, no markings, nothing.
I was just thinking.
It's a free-for-all almost. And when they open up the stairway, it's even going to escalate, worse. So, just, Wednesday at what?
Wednesday night or
9:30.
Okay. Thank you, all.
Can I ask a question real quick? Is he handicapped by any stretch?
Yes.
Does he have a handicap parking sticker on his car?
Thank you.
Thank you. Council comments, Mr. Smith. Mr. Payne.
No comments?
Ms. Sellers.
Can you turn that on, Candy?
What?
Oh, the only thing I did want to talk about, don't ask me, is, the mayor vetoed our pin thingy that we wanted to do for the Steamboat Days, and, it went online. That's the only reason I'm mentioning. He went online and saying that it was a tax and all this stuff, which I want to explain to people what had happened. Last year, Lisa and I served on the Steamboat Days Committee, and I kept telling them we need to get funding, and we needed to have public-private partnerships to try to get some businesses in to help us sponsor this event, because the city, I know it's a free event, but it's not free. Somebody has to pay for it. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that we put in to free events. And that doesn't include overtime for police, overtime for fire, overtime for the street department has to come and pick up after these free events. So we had some people who were who took our vendors list, and they were going to contact our vendors. They neglected to do so. So then after the first of the year, we were trying to contact vendors, the members of the board. And their budgets were already set, just like our city budgets were already set, so then it's hard to get the money. So then Shane Corbin, we did raise about, $8,000, $10,000 from various and sundry people. But then Shane Corbin went to the UEZ, and they donated $20,000, I believe. Yes. And then I guess the mayor spoke to redevelopment. I'm assuming it was the mayor less than not Shane, but I think the mayor probably went to redevelopment, got the $20,000 match. And then they came here and we got $20,000. But the whole point was, Ms. Schultz, who is over the river stage and does our parks events downtown, said that we could raise $20,000 if we would get the pins to get admittance into the Crashers, because they attract a huge amount of people. So the mayor was calling that a tax, and as Ed Zasovny pointed out, the same three entities that donated money, UEZ, TIF, and the city council, which is all tax dollars, even if it's a TIF, it's tax dollars, UEZ, that's tax dollars, and so is the city council. We donate money every year to the skating rink, but we charge a fee for people to use that. So it's the same difference. It's one half of the other to try to raise money to support that. So hopefully next year we will be able to do that. Dennis and I met with Paul Northern, the Parks Authority. We want to try to hire someone, a contract employee who just earns a percentage off of funding, to try to go out to some of the different corporations that are in Jeff to try to help us with to raise money to fund these different events that we put on. Dennis had a name, gave it to him. He told me he had 2 other names that he was checking into. It's been 2 months, and I don't think he's contacted anyone. We're running into the same problem that we did before, where people are starting to work on their budgets for the next year. If we don't get this done quickly, then we're going to be doing this all over again next year. And all these people standing up here know I have been harping on this for the past several years, numerous years, that we cannot continue to do free events. Louisville charges for their riverfront, they charge for their Zumba. We looked at Madison, they charge for their Rib Fest, $20 to get in with a band. I'm sure it's less for Clarksville charges for their parks events. We are not doing anything that any other community, or wanting to do something that other communities have not already done. So that's my take on it, and I just wanted to explain that.
I just wanted to go back to the police issue, why I wanted to go to the workshop, which I did call Brian after our finance committee, and at that time he was agreeable to a workshop. But to me, I mean, I can only sit up here and try to make the best decision I can, and I hope that when there is opposing positions, which there's going to be, there's 9 of us, so that we can just be a little bit respectful. And like to add that, you know, you say that it's fundable, we're getting more money in Lloyd, okay, but in my mind, I see where we have the ladder truck that's going to be funded out of Lloyd. We have the PSATs that we don't know what that's going to be. We're trying to get a 10 workstation into the new building and make that, you know, workable or whatever, but that'll be a new building that's coming down the road for that, and that's what Lloyd was created for, was to address the PSAT for the 911 consolidation. Plus, we have the police station that we still don't know what the portion out of Lloyd's going to be. It's an $11 million police station. I know that numbers have been tossed around, and I know that the mayor has had meetings with Ed where he would like for 100% of that come out of Lloyd. We haven't really discussed that. There's just so many unknown variables still left in Lloyd, and I just wanted an opportunity to sit down and look at those, try to get a number, plug it in, and just to see where we're at on the Lloyd. So, and I think I am doing my due diligence as an elected official to do that. It's not saying I don't want more police officers. I just want to make sure we can fund it and sustain them. That's all I have.
Thank you. Brian?
Nothing. Mr. Smith left, unfortunately, but I wanted to let him know that I appreciate his passion and his views on things. We had a little bit of a disagreement on some figures earlier, but that's okay. I'll give him a call and we'll work it out, I'm sure. That's all I have.
Mr. Samuel?
Unfortunately, I have a few comments.
It's good.
Candy's putting something up on the screen that I want to address. If you can read that. Over the weekend, I received an email, and it had an attachment that had a snapshot of Chief Hedrick's Facebook page. And I'd like to clarify some misinformation related to the comment that, one of the comments he says in there. And for those of you who can't read, I'm just going to read it. It says, "It's time that the Jeff City Council steps up to the plate and commits to providing the level of public safety the citizens of Jeffersonville deserve. Both the police and fire are presently understaffed. Out of all Class 2 cities in Indiana, Jeff ranks last in firefighters per population and last in firefighters per square mile. Last. Now here's the kicker. If you added 15 firefighters tomorrow, Jeffersonville still would be last. You deserve better." What I want to clarify on that is for the past 6 plus years, I've been on the council, and most every request, if not every request, that the fire department has brought before us, we've granted. We may seek clarification. We may do our due diligence or allow time for our due diligence, but most times they're approved. Just this afternoon, off the top of my head, I was thinking, we approved the new fire headquarters with top amenities, the best amenities. We've approved a new training tower. We've approved the new safety town for children's education.
We've purchased 2 new fire trucks totaling approximately $1.6 million. We're about to replace another one. The fireboat that we have for the new river patrol by our fire department, we approved all that, plus we purchased a new dually truck to put the boat in the water. Just last year, we approved 2 quad cab 4-wheel drive trucks for the chief and his assistant to drive. Those are the things that came off the top of my head today, and there's many more if I would go back and look. But to say that we need to step up is an insult. I'm very disappointed that our chief chose to go this route. I think he's a better man than that. I feel that Facebook posting and using social media is disingenuous, it's irresponsible, and it's totally unprofessional, and the citizens of Jeff deserve better than that from our leadership. It's presented as if we denied a proposal for new firefighters. We have not. We have yet to even receive a written proposal, both making the request and justifying it and showing where the recommendation for the funding is going to come from. It says 16 firefighters isn't enough. So are we asking for 30? We don't know because the request has not been made. Our entire general fund budget is spoken for or appropriated for 2014, especially after we just had to do the $3.5 million cuts due to our property tax caps. If we use our emergency savings, or others, as they call it, reserves, without adding revenue, we will blow through those reserves and then be faced with 2 options: layoffs or raising our taxes. We want neither one of those. I'm concerned for the long-term stability, not just looking at the here and now. We had that similar conversation earlier, but it's even heightened because now our fire chief evidently is requesting 15-plus officers, or firefighters. I would expect our chief to professionally manage our department and to stop managing via Facebook posts or social media outlets, and bring a proposal to the table where we can have a workshop to openly discuss our options that we have available. This council is very open, very receptive to whatever our public safety needs. We have constraints on us, and we want to do what's right, but our job is to make sure we can pay for it. And I think that's what we're trying to do. And when those statements are made via social media, before they even come to us, it's a slap in every one of these 9 people's faces. And we deserve better than that, I can tell you. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Julius.
I have one thing that I received, and I think everybody will receive it tonight, if you haven't already. Parlaying on what Nathan said from the local 558 firefighter union. It says the Jeffersonville Professional Firefighters Union, Local 558, agrees that the growth of this city and the comparison to the Indiana second-class cities warrants the justification to add additional personnel. However, we will not engage in public debate on the matter until we sit down with city leaders to discuss all aspects of the city budget and the city's continued growth in order to assist with developing a long-term plan that will protect both current and future firefighters' jobs. And my point to that is, and I knew Nathan was going to read that, earlier I made the comment to Chief Grimm, it sure would make everybody's life easier if we didn't read about everything in the paper or hear it on the TV or the radio or whatever, that we could sit down collectively and try and come up with a plan instead of pinching everybody in a corner. And it just makes sense, but it doesn't seem like it can happen. So I appreciate the local firefighters putting that out. I think that's very professional of their union to do so, and we appreciate that. So, and they did that pretty quick. So that's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you.